Hello viewers at home, hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome yet again to another episode of Dinner Guide. I am your host Chef Andy, and today we are going to be making a very beautiful classic dish. The name of the dish is a shepherd's pie. So without further ado, I'm just going to introduce you to my ingredients on the front here. So I'm just going to start with the closest one to me. So I have some fine cut carrots, I've got some oyster and some teriyaki sauce. I've got some regular iodized salt, I've got some ginger, some black pepper, some green pepper, some butter, some Parmesan cheese, a couple of dry ingredients in there. We have some cumin and some oregano. I have a whole cracked egg. I've got also some thyme. I've got some flour here, all-purpose flour. I've got some parboiled potatoes. I've got some meat that's just been seared. I've got some milk. I've got some olive oil. And last but not least, some fresh coriander and some white onion. We're just gonna take a quick short commercial break, and when we come back, we're gonna go straight into the dish. I, at this point, urge that you grab your cookbooks, grab your pens, and let's get cooking. See you in a short while. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back from our short break. For those who missed out on the introduction, we're going to be playing with the shepherd's pie today. I'm just quickly going to start my pan now, and I'm going to bring you back to scrap with the bit of introduction for those who missed. So today we are going to be making a very classic dish. We're going to be making a shepherd's pie. So for the beginning bit of the dish, we're going to start with our mashed potatoes. I'm going to show you how to make a very easy creamy mashed potato dish from mashed potatoes from home. So to start us off, I have some potatoes here. I have some Parmesan cheese, some butter. I've got an egg there, a whole egg, some salt, some black pepper, and yes, and of course some milk. So we're just going to start off on this side of the table today. Just going to grab a few tools that we're gonna be working with. So first off, you wanna melt down your butter. So about 2 tablespoons of butter in there. Nice, quite rich dish, so definitely a bit of butter there will do just fine. All right, and into that, I'm just going to add my potatoes. So remember, the potatoes have already been boiled, they're nice and soft, so all we are going to do is turn them into a creamy mashed potatoes. I'm going to be using a masher, but if you don't own one of these, you can also use a wooden spoon. So all I'm going to do is break those nice big chunks quickly. Right, so a very helpful tool to have at home when you're making your potatoes. Helps you to break them up much quicker. Right, so as you can see, nicely broken down chunks. Now we're just going to get that a little creamier, so I'm going to add a bit of milk. So any regular milk for this dish. All I'm going to do is I'm going to use my masher, and I'm just gonna use that to give that a nice, quick, fluffy mix. So remember, ladies and gentlemen, for those who don't own a masher at home, you can actually use a wooden spoon. It'll do just the same. And if you're looking for much more pure potato, you can always just put it through a sieve. It's also a nice technique to do it. Just grab a sieve, get your potatoes and just run them through your metallic sieve. You're going to also get a very nice consistency with your potatoes. So as you can see, that is now nice and creamy. Just gonna add a tiny bit of milk there. And then we're gonna add our Parmesan cheese. You can avoid the cheese if you're not a big fan of it. I like to just give the cheese, mix my cheese with the potatoes. It gives a nicer, richer flavor. All right, so basically remember, you don't want your mixture to be too runny. You just want it to be able to play around the pot. All right, so now that is nice and creamy. Just to finish that off, about 2 pinches of salt. I'm gonna use a regular spoon now. So as you can see, nice and creamy potatoes, easy stuff. All right, so that is done. We're just going to put that on the side. We're gonna grab a now fresh pan. So leave your potatoes to sit on the side. Don't take them off the heat. Let them sit in the pan. You want them still warm to use. So in a fresh pan, I'm just going to go with the mixture, basically what gives the shepherd's pie the richness and the base of the whole dish. And in this part, we are going to be playing with some meat here that had already been seared. So very, very nice small chunks of meat. Just sear them on a pan with a bit of oil. Let them rest. It always allows for the meat also to tenderize. So to that, we are going to be adding some oregano, some dried spices as I mentioned. We're going to be using some green peppers there, some carrots, some oyster sauce, some teriyaki sauce. I also have a nice big onion here, so we're just going to chop that quickly. So I'm just going to take the edges off. So basically all I'm going to do is put a couple of slits to my onion like that, turn it around, and I'm just gonna let my knife run through that. So remember, all you're looking for is very, very, very finely chopped white onion. You don't want any big chunks in there. Remember, you want all the ingredients going in there to be of equally the same size. So as you can see, I have a nice half onion there. I'm just going to save that for later. And then some green pepper. This had already been julienne, so we are just going to finish that off, give it a nice quick fine chop there. Remember, you can always use the ingredients chunky or you can use them fine chopped. It depends on you, but I particularly insist having them in the smallest size possible. Makes it a little nicer on a peel and also looks better when you serve. Right. So to my hot pan, I'm going to start with some white onions. We're just going to sweat those off for about a minute and a half. Right, very, very simple. Give that a toss. Alright, so as that goes, I'm just going to now grab my meat. I'm just going to grab some green peppers, throw those in there as well. So remember, our meat is gonna go in last. This had already been par cooked. So just gonna give that a nice quick toss like that. Alright, so my alarm just went off. Remember, this was preheating a little earlier, so I'm just going to turn my timer on again. So I preheated the oven for about 10 to 15 minutes. Remember, all I'm going to be using is the top element because we only want to gratinate the shepherd's pie on the top. Right, so nicely sweated out onions, nice cooked peppers there. Just going to add my meat. Just gonna give that a nice quick toss like that. As you can see, the mixture is nice and dry. All the oil is cooked out of there. Nice dry pan. Remember, you don't want your pan to be too watery because you're going to be introducing some seasoning to it and you're going to be adding some wet ingredients. So remember, this is just to give it that general texture, that general feel. Right, so carrots, nicely chopped carrots in there. Give that a nice toss. So remember, the meat has been pre-cooked. This is just to help you cook it a little faster. If you have time to sear the meat beforehand, please always do so. Right, so we're gonna turn the heat a little lower, and then I'm just gonna go with my teriyaki sauce over the top and my oyster sauce over the top as well. And then I'm going to add my dry spices. And then I'm going to add a bit of my oregano. Right, very easy technique of cooking your beef. Just gonna give that a nice toss. So as you can see, your beef is nice and rich. The sauces are nice and thick. So you don't want this to be any runnier than that. You want a not so dry, not so wet mixture. Right, just to finish that off, a pinch of black pepper and a pinch of, maybe about 2 pinches of salt. It's gonna give that a nice mix. Alright, so remember, for this dish you're going to be incorporating 2 different techniques. So you're gonna be layering first of all. So I always recommend have your ingredients not too cold. When your mashed potatoes are a little creamy, it makes it a little easier to spread around. When your meat is a little warm and saucy, it makes it also a little easier to move it onto your dish that you're going to be baking with. Right, so I'm just going to take the meat off. Just gonna reheat the mashed potatoes just a little bit, and then to add, I'm gonna be adding 1 raw egg. And I'm also going to be adding in there some freshly chopped coriander. So just a small pinch. So this is basically going to work 2 ways. It's going to give the mashed potatoes a bit of a finish on the flavor side, and also it's just going to give it those beautiful specks of green color. Right, so mashed potatoes, you should actually hear it start to pop. Means it's totally dry, means all the water is gone now. Right, so mashed potatoes, remember, not too long on the heat. You just want it to be a little easier to mix and also a little easier to spread over your dish as you plate it ready to bake. Alright, so my oven is on the go now, it's ready to go. We are now just going to go to the last bit where we are going to be moving this onto a dish. So I'm using a glass bowl. This I have actually just waxed on the inside with a bit of butter. This is actually to help your dish from sticking to the bowl. Alright, so mashed potatoes are looking nice and creamy there. Alright, so we're just going to turn off the heat. Give that a bit of time to cool. So all we are going to do at this stage is we're going to grab our meat mixture. So in there there's some carrots, there's some onions, there's some green peppers, some meat, some oyster and some teriyaki sauce, some cumin powder and some oregano, some salt and pepper. Right, so just gonna scoop everything out of my pan there. Right, so I'm just going to use my spoon to spread the mixture evenly right around the base of the dish. So as I said, very technical dish, needs a bit of preparation. So if you're going to be making this for your dinner, I would suggest start a little earlier. Right, so our meat is now, as you can see, the bowl is nicely evenly covered at the bottom with our meat. And then to that we're just going to add our creamy mashed potatoes. So I like to always start at the center. So that should give you about 3 beautiful scoops of mashed potatoes there. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to use a spoon and I'm just going to spread that around. Make sure to cover all the mixture that's at the bottom there. Remember, you want the mashed potatoes to just gratinate in the oven. Gratinating is basically a process where you want it to just get a bit of brown, a bit of crispness on the top. Remember, it's already cooked, so you're not cooking it again. Just going to add a bit more of the mashed potatoes. Right, so this is now going to go into the oven. We're just going to monitor it, but I would always recommend for the gratinating process of the dish, don't leave the dish and take off. Always be close by. Remember, you just want it to color on the top, right? So to that, just going to add a bit of that dried oregano on the top. Right, very simple. And now all we are going to do is, the oven is now running at about 180 to 200 degrees. We are actually just going to be using the top element. So I always recommend that you have your tray right in the center of the oven. You get a nicer, even distribution of heat. So we're just going to grab that and that's just going to go in there. All right, so I'm going to set my timer for about 20 minutes. So it's sitting at 200 degrees now on the top element alone. Remember, this is not a convectional oven. It doesn't have a fan. If you do have one that has a fan, always a plus. You can actually be able to run the fan and the element at the same time, which makes it a little faster to cook. So this is going to be going now for about 20 minutes. We're going to leave it in the oven. We're going to jump into a short commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to be taking our beautiful shepherd's pie out of the oven. We're going to look at what it looks like, and we're just going to go right into the plating. So, ladies and gentlemen, see you after the short break. Ladies and gentlemen, for those who missed out on what we were doing before a short commercial break, we were actually working on a very simple to make shepherd's pie. We threw that in the oven, and it's been going for about 20 minutes now on top level element. Basically what we're throwing it in the oven to do is to gratinate it. So we've got it now done, it's ready to come out. So we're just going to turn off our temperature there. Right, and this is just gonna come right out. So for those who missed out, we did a shepherd's pie today. Very simple dish to make at home. We incorporated some mashed potatoes with some meat and some vegetables, and we came up with a very simple dish you can make. So as you can see, from 2 or 3 potatoes and about half a kilo of meat, you can actually be able to make a very simple quick dish for a dinner of about 2 to 3 people, or even if you have kids, this will serve 3 or 4 kids really easy. So we're just going to go straight to the plating stage, and I'm going to be using a ring today. We're just going to see if we can get some beautiful plating out of this. So I'm first gonna start by working my ring right to the bottom of the dish like that. Give it a bit of a turn. Remember, I'm wearing gloves because the dish is still hot. Remember, this just came out of the oven. Right, and then all I'm going to do is I'm going to use my lifter to get that out. So remember to be careful when trying to plate this hot as I am doing right now. Remember, this has not cooled off, straight out of the oven. Right, so we're just going to grab that and then straight onto our plate there. We're just going to put a bit of that in the middle there. So very easy, simple technique of plating your shepherd's pie. And as you can be able to see from the layers and the textures that are coming through there, you've got that bit of crunch from the top from the gratination process. You've got that nice creamy potato layer right in the middle with a bit of Parmesan cheese. You've got your bottom layer there with all the meat, the sauce, and the vegetables. So with that, I'm just going to finish by just drizzling a bit of a gravy on top. So feel free to make your own gravy at home. I just prefer to serve it like that. Right, so a nice generous drizzle of gravy right on top, and of course just a little bit on the sides there. Remember, it's always good to have a bit of gravy to serve with your dish because it might be too dry, and sometimes you want a bit of gravy to be able to take down all that mashed potatoes. So this is a very beautiful gravy we had made earlier, and I'm just going to drizzle a bit of that on top. So ladies and gentlemen, for those who missed out on the dish we were prepping today, we were doing a shepherd's pie. Very simple dish, something you can be able to do for your kids or for your loved ones at home. Very easy to make, something you can make in advance. This will keep in the fridge for at least 4 to 5 days, but I always recommend, if you're looking for the best way to serve any dish, try and serve it as fresh as you possibly can. Well, from the studios, it's been me, your host, Chef Andy. We have been working on a beautiful shepherd's pie today. Do leave your comments, follow us on Facebook, give us your feedback. And from me here at the studios and from Dinner Guide, which is a show you have been tuned into, you've actually also been watching BrandPlus TV. It's been a pleasure to host the show for you today. So until the next show, until the next episode, you guys at home enjoy yourselves. Try this at home, and as I said, nothing tastes better than your homemade shepherd's pie. Thank you so much. Have a lovely night. See you soon.